Hey guys, welcome back to the Unmasking Shame series. This is the 5th video. If you haven't seen the previous 4, I definitely recommend watching them because they are all building off of each other. So today is the Mask of Superiority. So a couple days ago I did a video on the Mask of Materialism. These two are walking a very similar path. There is a few discrepancies that we're going to distinguish today, just so you guys have an idea of the difference between the two, because they will come across as quite similar. So one thing I want to point out is the Mask of Materialism is all about obtaining and getting possessions and making yourself feel good. They're not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be in comparison to others, right? It can just be, I'm surrounded with all these things, they make me feel good, and that's how you drive your sense of worth. The Mask of Superiority takes it one step further. So it requires the Mask of Materialism to be on, but then the Mask of Superiority goes on top of that one, which is basically telling the world that I have all these things, and because I have all these things, I'm better than you, right? So there is an element of comparison that is required in order for the Mask of Superiority to be present, right? What is the opposite of superiority? Inferiority, right? So if you look at what is motivating the Mask of Superiority, it's going to be its counterpart, which is going to be inferiority. So we see this commonly with people experiencing shame, because when we experience shame, we want to compensate for it. And one of shame's best friends is inferiority. So when you have inferiority, you're going to want to find ways to deal with that. So when we're wearing the Mask of Superiority, we appear better than people, and that makes us feel good when we're caught in that trap. So comparison is going to be the number one ingredient. And I think this is very common, and this is an easy trap to fall into, right? For a lot of us, because we live in a social media era where it's so easy to wake up, feel great about who you are, you're having a good day, you look in the mirror, you're like, yeah, this is a great day. And then all of a sudden you open up your social media and you see all these people that you feel or perceive look better than you, or are better than you, or have more followers than you, or more money than you, or whatever, and it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling inferior, right, and inadequate. So what do, right? We find ways to surround ourselves with people that make us feel superior, and we keep all the rest of the other people out, right? That's where we start to bring control into the experience, right? We only hang out with people that are at our level or lower. We never hang out with people that are doing better than us, or making more money than us, or whatever that might be, because it creates a threat, right? And that threat really plays on our shame and our inferiority, and it makes us feel bad, so we try and avoid it, right? Shame avoidance strategies. They're so common, right? And one of the things to healing shame is if you can understand your shame healing strategies, what you're doing, then you can start to work backwards from there, and you can start to heal your shame, right? But if you're always looking at your triggers as things that are triggering you so you avoid them, then you're never ever going to get to a place where your wounds will be exposed, and then you can use them to heal, because you're too busy trying and manipulating your life in ways that are trying to avoid all of these shame avoiding strategies from being like triggers that you can develop awareness from. Okay, so usually people are gonna find healing in this mask when they start to see the fallacy in the mask, right? It's not doing any service except pulling you further and further away from your truth and from who you are, right? So I call it the fragility in the mask. The mask is very fragile because you are so dependent on other people to define your worth, right? When we do that, it becomes, you get to this point where you see it for what it is. You're no longer deluded by it. You see it for what it is, and you just become like so angry, like, holy crap, I've let people actually define who I am and who I get to be in this life. And that's the place where we liberate ourselves from this mask, okay? So that's important to note. So people, when they have this experience, what I've noticed happens is people, they have to kind of move from superiority back down into inferiority, and that's the place where we heal from, right? And where does that happen? It happens when we put ourselves out of our comfort zone and we put ourselves in situations where we're surrounded by the people that trigger us, right? So for people that have the Mask of Superiority, where's going to be a place that's going to trigger these people? probably a big room full of successful people that are more successful than them, right? So, what I would encourage if I was working with somebody wanting to peel this mask off is put yourself in situations where you're going to be around other people that are going to trigger you to want to heal these things that you need to heal, right? We can only heal when we're triggered by the things that are in our environment that are creating that, because that's when we start to get to the rawness of it. The core of our wounds is going to happen through having to go through the trenches and be in that pain and that jealousy and that envy and whatever it is that's holding us back from experiencing the shame that we need, that's binding us, that we need to heal from. Okay, so understanding that, an element of ego comes into play. Okay, the ego is the mechanism that we employ through our domestication into adulthood, or even into adolescence, where we perceive the world as something that we need to protect ourselves from. So we see the world as a place that we can't bring our authenticity into, because for some reason there's a threat to our authenticity. And we create a false sense of self. This is our ego, right? This is our masks, our personas, our facades, whatever we want to call them. It's the same shit, right? We're masking ourselves from the world because we feel there is a threat, right? So the ego has that job. And as long as we're continuing to live in the ego, which is the mind, right? And it's a structure in the mind. It's not the mind in totality, but it is a structure in the mind. And as long as we're identifying with that aspect of our being, we're never going to be able to liberate ourselves from shame or from these masks, right? So the only answer, in my humble opinion, is to completely liberate yourself from identification or over-identification with mind, right? And that happens by becoming more present in your experience underneath the mind, right? So, which is to say our body or our heart or our soul or whatever you want to call it, however you want to conceptualize that, that's fine with me. But there's something beyond the experience of the mind. There's something beyond the thoughts you think in your head, and there's something beyond the emotional responses that you experience in your body to the activity happening in your mind, right? These are just layers of your being, and as you peel them back, you realize that there's something deeper than these surface layers to who we are, and that's what we need to start to access, right? That's where we develop self-love, self-acceptance. That's where we move through shame and into love. That's where we find self-worth, right? If we're trying to cultivate these things through concepts in the mind, you're holding up a positive, right? Like, I'm a good person, I love myself, I'm complete, I'm whole, right? Those are great affirmations, but without present moment awareness, they're just thoughts. And you're holding those thoughts up against other thoughts that you've been ruminating for some people decades. It's not going to work, right? It's going to feel like a futile task. Like, why am I doing this? I'm not moving closer to my truth. So we do this work in the present moment. We tune out of thought, out of mind, and we move into the present moment where all this stuff can transpire and transmute, right? So if you want to cultivate more self-acceptance, you want to cultivate more love for yourself, you want to move from shame into love, this is a beautiful transformation, then you're going to do it in the present moment, okay? I've been working really hard at developing a tool that people can use, because I find I'm saying the same things over and over and over again in all of my coaching sessions, in my posts, and it's all coming down to the same stuff, which is present moment awareness. And this is the tool that I've used in my life, and this is the tool that I get all my clients to use, is becoming more present, getting more in tune with your body, getting out of the suffering that the mind is causing you, so you can start to step into the beautiful energy that we're meant to be living in. You know what I mean? We're not meant to be living in our minds all the time to cultivate our sense of self, right? The mind is fantastic for reading and talking and engaging and problem solving and all those things, but it's not good when we're talking about developing things like our sense of self and love, relationships, all those things. They're not mental constructs. Those are heart constructs. We're meant to experience those down here. So let's get you moving towards the place of creating the bridge between head and heart, so you can have that journey. You can take that journey and have easy access to the heart center, and that's present moment awareness. So the tool that I've created is the Be the Space book. I just wrote a book called Be the Space, and it is a loving guide to creating inner space through present moment awareness. So it's the wisdom to overcome suffering, really, at the end of the day. I've put my 15 years of doing this work into this this book to give you guys the tools that you're going to need in order to understand how to get to a place where you can be more present in your life and end the suffering your mind is causing you. So I'm very excited. That should be out in about a week or two here, and it's just in editing, so get that loaded up on Amazon Kindle pretty soon for you guys to read and start to get on this transformation journey, so you can start to find inner peace and happiness, which this is what that's all about, right? Yeah, give me some comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. Mask of Superiority. It's a really interesting one, blended with yesterday's talk. And yeah, looking forward to the next few. I got 3 more masks I think I'm going to be talking about in the coming weeks. So excited to share those with you guys. Have a good day.